In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, all praise is due to Allah the Almighty, the Lord of the worlds. May Allah's peace, mercy, and blessings be upon His final and last messenger, Muhammad. And may Allah's peace, mercy, and blessings be with each and every one of you, dear viewers, watching this new episode here on LTV International. In this episode, my dear viewers, we will provide the answer to a very important and significant question that we have received via the official Facebook page of the program. And the question reads, what is the stance of Islam regarding safeguarding religious sites and worshippers?
Created the plants and trees. He created the birds and bees. He created the oceans and seas, some of His many bounties.
This is a very important question, especially in light of the current affairs of the world and some recent sad incidents that took place against some places of worship. Without any further ado, and in order to provide the answer to this question from an Islamic perspective, I need at the very outset to highlight the fact that Islam establishes and maintains the honor and the dignity of each and every human being just by the virtue of being a human. So each and every individual is worthy of all respect and all dignity. And that's irrespective of one's nationality, ethnicity, social status, or any other physical or mental condition. And we clearly see this encapsulated in the very significant verse of the Noble Quran, which is in chapter Al-Isra, and in particular in verse number 70.
وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ ورزقناهم من الطيبات وفضلناهم على كثير ممن خلقنا تفضيلا.
In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate, and we have certainly honored the children of Adam and carried them on the land and sea and provided for them of the good things and preferred them over much of what we've created with preference.
Here, and I have highlighted this verse in previous episodes, the emphasis is put on the dignity of each and every human being. And we clearly see that this inherent dignity entails the right to safeguarding and maintaining the integrity of one's faith, freedom of worship, and of course the places of worship.
وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ ورزقناهم من الطيبات وفضلناهم على كثير ممن خلقنا تفضيلا.
In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate, and we have certainly honored the children of Adam and carried them on the land and sea and provided for them of the good things, and preferred them over much of what we've created with preference.
In this regard, we find many explicit verses in the Noble Quran. For instance, we read in Surah Al-Baqarah, and in particular in verse number 256, the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي.
In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate, there shall be no compulsion in the religion.
Here, my dear viewers, the verse is very clear, and this is a right that's ensured and guaranteed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's no compulsion shall be exercised against any human being when it comes to belief. So each and every human being has the freedom to subscribe to whatever belief that they believe in. Ultimately, it is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is the judge. So it is not for an individual to judge others. Yes, we have the duty as Muslims to clarify, to convey the message, but it does not mean that we have the role to judge others or to point fingers, because we know that it is ultimately up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially when it comes to specific individuals. It is not up to any individual, irrespective of their scholarly status or how committed they are to the acts of worship in Islam, to judge others or to say this person is going to paradise and that person is not or is going to hell, for instance. Definitely, this is not within the capacity of any human being, as it is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is the judge, and this is out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we can never, as human beings, know what is within the heart and the conscience of other human beings.
لا إكراه في الدين قد تبين الرشد من الغي.
In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate, there shall be no compulsion in the religion.
There is no compulsion in religion, because in essence, when it comes to faith and when it comes to belief, this is primarily an act of the heart. Thus, it is not of any sense to think that by imposing or by exercising a form of pressure or coercion, you would end up having faithful believers. So the Quran is very clear in this regard, and as it clearly states that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the judge. Yes, as I said, and I repeat, it is our responsibility to convey the message, but still this has to be within the ethical parameters of the Noble Quran, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and the meaning of the verse is, yes, call to the path or to the way of Allah, your Lord, but with wisdom and fair preaching. And this has always been the stance and the example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him.
Submission, faith, and patience, you conveyed the noble message, brought us light through your guidance. Peace be upon you, my beloved, Ya Habibi, Ya Muhammad.
Furthermore, my dear viewers, we read a very significant verse in the Noble Quran, and that's in chapter Al-An'am. And particularly in verse number 108, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says,
ولا تسبوا الذين يدعون من دون الله فيسبوا الله عدوا بغير علم.
In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate, and do not insult those they invoke other than Allah, lest they insult Allah in enmity without knowledge.
the verse here is explicit and clear with regards to respecting the beliefs of others. As we clearly see here, the instruction from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, O believers, do not insult what they worship other than Allah, or they will insult Allah spitefully out of ignorance. This is how we have made each people's deeds appealing to them. Then to their Lord is their return, and Allah will inform them of what they used to do. Definitely, there are many juristic injunctions and rulings that can be derived and extracted from this verse of the Noble Quran, but for the sake of the time and in view of the question that we have received, it is evident and it's safe to say that the prohibition of insulting the deities of non-Muslims intellectually necessitates the prohibition of transgressing against non-Muslims' places of worship. Because it is self-evident, of course, that as it is clearly established that it is prohibited to exhibit any form of disrespect when it comes or regarding or against the beliefs or the deities of non-Muslims, definitely by default this means it is also a sin from an Islamic jurisprudential perspective to target the places of worship of non-Muslims by any means or in any form. With this, my dear viewers, we come to the end of this episode. As always, all your questions, feedback, and comments are most welcome via the official Facebook page of the program and the rest of the social media. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.